Welcome to Inside the Huddle with Heath and Hyams. I'm Jimmy Hyams along with Heath Shuler, former star quarterback at the University of Tennessee, and we are coming to you from Matlock Tires. Pleased to be here. They've been in business for over 70 years. This is a place where I come to get my tires. It's a place where I come to get my oil change. Heath, you were in here yesterday.
Yes, actually, and back today getting tires. So, it's a place that I go. My whole family goes. Call Jimmy and the guys down here, and they take good care of us.
They do. Very friendly, and they're great to deal with. So I've appreciated our relationship with them for, almost a decade now. All right, we are going to talk a lot of Tennessee football. We'll recap the Syracuse game. We'll talk a little bit about ETSU. We'll dive into some of the good things we saw about Tennessee versus Syracuse, some of the things they need to work on. Do want to mention that in addition to Matlock Tires, our sponsors are A.G. Hines Company, Ray Varner Ford and Clinton, Marcos Garza Law Firm, Thrivent, General Insurance Services, Home Federal Bank, and Gambuza's Barbershop. All right, our first segment is brought to you by Matlock Tires. Matlock Tires is a full-service tire center. They offer top-quality tire brands, expert service, and installation. Matlock Tires has 5 convenient locations. We're at the Farragut location, and that's where, as I mentioned earlier, that's where I go to get my tires and my oil changes. All right, Tennessee against Syracuse. Joey Aguilar made his debut. The transfer really from Appy State, took a detour to UCLA, but then he wound up in Knoxville. Heath, I've got to ask you this. When you watch this performance against give me your assessment of how you think Aguilar performed against Syracuse.
Well, I couldn't be happier with his performance. I thought he played extremely well. I mean, some of the small things that I really liked about him, that when he scrambled out of the pocket, oftentimes he was scrambling to throw and then would make up his mind based upon the coverage and if he could find an open guy. Then when he did run, he knew where the sticks were. He was able to pick up the first down. And probably the most important thing is he kept the ball away from their defense this year. Yeah. I mean, he didn't throw an interception. I know we had a fumble there, but other than that, I mean, he really kept the ball away from their defense and really didn't have any passes that I looked at. I went, ooh, why did you throw that? I thought he made all the reads as necessary. We got to catch the ball better, Yeah. Jimmy, I mean, you said there's some things that we got to do better. Catching the ball on the perimeter is one thing, but I think he made all the throws that he needed that was necessary. He was poised. I watched him on the sidelines. I would watch him go around. He talked to the offensive line. He would talk to the receivers, talk to the running backs. And I think that's that added dimension that people want to talk about. They want to look at height, weight, arm strength, but the most important that you really can't measure, and that's the ability to lead your team. And I think he certainly did that on Saturday.
He hit a deep ball.
He hit yes, he really did good. Yes, and it's been since Hendon Hooker that we saw a deep ball like that we catch the ball and run it on the end. So that was great. That was really, really good to see.
He also threw a couple of nice passes over the middle. Now a couple of them were dropped.
Yep.
But I think Tennessee needs to reclaim the middle of the field, and I thought they did that against Syracuse, and it would have worked even better if there hadn't been a couple of drops.
Yeah, the drops across the middle, but I think it's just there's quarterbacks that when they come out there, they're hesitant to make certain throws. And you start to see that, in the scrimmages that you have and in practice. Mm-hmm. And I think with Joey coming in, the way he threw the ball at practice and even watching practice this morning, you're able to see him. He has confidence in his ability to throw over the middle. Mm-hmm. And he likes to throw over the middle. And there's a lot of the points of emphasis in this offense is the ability to throw the deep ball, throw it over the middle, and then throw the outsides, and all of which he did in one game.
All right, so what were his numbers against Syracuse? He was 16 of 28, 247 yards. It's the most by a quarterback in his debut at Tennessee under Josh Heupel. He also had 3 touchdown passes. He ran for 34 yards, 0 sacks. So one of our questions this segment is, will Joey Aguilar have better stats this year than the former Tennessee quarterback, Nico Iamaleava? How did Nico do in his debut for UCLA against Utah? Well, Utah won 43-10. Nico was 11 of 22, 136 yards. He was sacked 4 times. He ran 13 times for 47 yards. He led the team in rushing. Do you think Aguilar will have better stats this year than Nico?
Well, and I understand, and I'm from a personal standpoint, I really like Nico as a person. I think there was some issues, some family dynamics that really caused him the issues and the problems, all that. So I always wish the best for Nico. I think he's a really good young man, and I wish the best for him, and I hope he plays extraordinarily well. But I do believe that, he's in a team that's not very good. UCLA is a bad football team. And I don't know why they thought that going to UCLA would be a really good step up, but that was certainly multiple steps backwards. So in saying that, I mean, Joey's going to have much better statistics this year than Nico will, and I think it puts Nico at a real difficult challenge. I don't see him at UCLA next year.
Yeah, I think that Joe will have better numbers for a couple of reasons. One, as you alluded to, the supporting cast.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think he's got a better coaching staff.
Oh, without a doubt.
What UCLA has.
I mean, look at my concern with Aguilar coming in is he going to throw the ball to the other team? I mean, if you look at his statistics and for every 2 touchdowns he threw an interception last season at App State. Well, you start thinking is he going to throw the ball to the defenders often? And I watched how they have been coaching him at practice. I watched how they coached him in the game. And there was no questions. I mean, he was trying his best. He was throwing to the open defender. And he was hitting that, which we haven't seen a lot. And even with Hendon a couple times, it took him a while to get to that third possession receiver, get to that third receiver. We didn't see it with Joe. We certainly didn't see it with Nico last year. But getting to that third and fourth receiver, he did it in the first game of the season.
Here's another reason I think Aguilar will have better numbers. He's got a better running attack. So if you look at what Tennessee's running backs did against Syracuse, they ended up with 212 yards on 31 carries, 2 touchdowns, and a touchdown catch. How did UCLA's running backs do? 15 carries, 37 yards. So you've got a running attack to help support you. Now, Tennessee's receivers, as you alluded to earlier, they need to do a little bit better job of catching the football. But when you've got that kind of running attack to help you, I think that's going to open up the passing game as well. And even though Tennessee is going to end up playing better competition in SEC play, I still think Aguilar's numbers are going to exceed. So here's what Nico did in 2024. He completed 63%.
Which is a good number, Jimmy. I mean, 63%, we'll take that, right? I mean, that's good.
And that's about what Aguilar had in the first game against Syracuse.
Yes, yep.
2,616 yards. That's what Nico threw for. I think Aguilar will surpass that. 19 touchdowns. Aguilar will have more than that. 4 interceptions.
That's a good number.
That's a great number for the interceptions.
I mean, interceptions, that's a great number. But the problem is the next stat that you're going to read off.
28 sacks Nico took.
Yeah, that's why he didn't have interceptions.
Yeah, because he was risk averse.
Risk averse, yes.
And so I think that was a factor. Aguilar's not going to get sacked 28 times. I don't know what that number is going to be. You'd like for it to be something less than 20. We'll see if he can accomplish that. Here's the other thing. Nico in SEC games had only 2 games in which he threw for over 200 yards. He had 104 against Ohio State. So I think you're going to see better numbers from Aguilar, and I think Tennessee has reason to be optimistic. After game 1, I understand it's early.
Right. And we don't know exactly how, Syracuse, are they going to be a really good football team or are they going to be an average football team?
Yeah, and I think I see them as a 500 team.
Yeah, I think
somewhere in that range. So the other thing about Tennessee's offense, they snapped the ball every 22.5 seconds. They had 6 or 7 snaps in which less than 12 seconds ran off the clock. So Heath, what we saw was when Tennessee would have a big play, they would hurry up to the line of scrimmage and snap it real quick, unless Syracuse was faking an injury. So
we'll get to that in a minute.
We will. But so I thought that the pace of play, Tennessee kind of was picking and choosing when they were going to go up tempo, and I thought it was effective the way they did that.
Yeah, and that tells you a lot about Joey's type quarterback he is. He's one of those quarterbacks. He probably would have been a really good point guard in basketball because that's the type of decision that you're making. You're going down the court, you're dishing the ball off to your other teammates, but that's the way a quarterback is. It's kind of like I always said if John Elway played in this type of system today, because no one was better at times than John Elway in the 2-minute drill. I mean, played against him. I'll never forget. The coach looked at me. It was 1:12 left in the game. He goes, "We gave him the ball back too soon." And what he do? March down with 1:12 left, and I think there was time to spare, and they kicked the field goal and they beat us. And you want those type quarterbacks, and I'm not necessarily comparing Joey to Elway, but that style of play really fits Joey's, his personality, the way he is. And you want to be able to see that up-tempo pace. I think Tennessee's at their best when we were up-tempo. I think it keeps the defense off balance. They're more vanilla in their defensive coverages. They can't do as much. They can't substitute during those times. And with our backs having the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and line up in different sets, I think it really plays an advantage of Tennessee. And you got to have a quarterback that actually can be effective in a 2-minute style offense or this fast-paced offense of Coach Heupel.
All right, our next segment is brought to you by Gambuza's Barbershop. It's the undisputed leader in the Knoxville market. They offer a barbershop experience that redefines men's grooming. They set the standard for quality and style, from precision haircuts to shaves. Gambuza's Barbershop, men belong here. All right, Tennessee, our next topic is the secondary. Will it continue to shine without Jamad McCoy and Ricky Gibson? Now, McCoy, we don't know when he's going to come back. They're kind of shooting for the end of this month. Gibson is going to be out an extended period of time. So, first off, I want to get your take, Heath, on how do you think the secondary played without McCoy and basically Gibson for much of that game?
Well, I think we did very well when we were one-on-one. I think certainly outside the corners did a very good job one-on-one with the receivers. I think we got some challenges in zone coverage across the middle. I mean, the dig route was hit several times, and I don't know what the stats is. I'm sure it was 5 or 7 plays over 20 yards. 7 plays over 20 yards or more. That's a big number. And all of those, I think, came in those deep dig routes across the middle. That means that the safeties are going to have to recognize that it's much faster when that is happening. Obviously, they don't want to get beat deep, and you want to keep the ball in front of you. I get that. But there's got to be some times. There was some guys that was pretty wide open. I don't know if it was some busted coverages that we had. But if I looked at our secondary, that was the one link in that zone coverage that I felt like that we'd definitely have to address. I thought Hood played exceptionally well. I mean, to be able to have that many batted balls, playing on the corner, kind of stepping in. But this is where these kids have an opportunity. When someone's down, you have an opportunity to show your skills, and he certainly did that and took full advantage of the opportunity.
Caleb Hood, the transfer from Colorado, ended up with 3 passes broken up. McCoy had 9 all of last year, so that's a pretty good start for Tennessee. And when you do, then Jalen McMurray also had a solid game, I thought.
Yes.
And so and then the freshman Ty Redmond.
I thought he played really well for a freshman.
Yeah.
For a freshman to come in and play that well, that's unusual to position at that level.
Yeah. So I do want to ask you this. So Tennessee brought the pressure. They blitzed a lot. When you do that, are you going to be more susceptible to giving up 20-yard pass plays?
Typically not, because oftentimes you're more in man-to-man coverages, I would think. I think it really gives you more opportunity for interceptions, especially getting that type of pressure. 5 sacks from our defensive front is really good. I thought our linebackers played exceptionally well. I thought, we could have even though we gave up, there was at times I thought we kind of gave up a little bit much up front. I would say that Coach Gardner's probably addressing some of those issues, but I mean, there was at times I wish we'd have had more pressure on them, but often our guys were there when needed, but oftentimes it was the linebackers.
So Tennessee ended up with 10 passes broken up during the course of the game. You know how many they averaged last year? 3.8.
So is that what is a record for Tennessee? I mean, is it a pretty?
I don't know.
But that seems like a lot.
It is a lot.
10 passes.
I mean, I tried to look it up to find if there was a game last year.
And how many attempts did they have?
In the 30 range or so.
Yeah, so think about that.
Yeah, so I thought that was a really good number for Tennessee. Yeah. So they averaged 3.8. They had 10 PBUs. They had 5 sacks. They averaged 2.2 sacks last year. I think it was 5 different players in a sack.
Yes, it was.
So they were bringing pressure from a lot of different angles.
And the depth helps. We talked about that last week of having that depth up front. Their fresh legs are getting in. They're full of, and when you're an offensive lineman and you're playing every snap, it takes a toll on you when they got fresh legs coming in every series, every other series. And
Hood had a fumble recovery for a return for a touchdown. Tennessee under Tim Banks has had 10 defensive touchdowns. In every game in which they've had a defensive touchdown, they're 8-0.
Oh, wow.
8-0. Now, they had 3 of them against Connecticut, but they're 8-0 whenever they have a defensive touchdown. So if I were to underscore one of the keys to,
Yeah.
to future games,
Yeah.
get you a defensive touchdown. How about that? The highest grade from Pro Football Focus, the highest grade for any defensive back was Colton Hood. And then Ty Redmond, the freshman, had the next highest grade. So I thought those
And
numbers
he was
were pretty good.
the player of the week, right? Freshman player of the week and the SEC,
SEC.
player of the week. So we had two of them and two different. So that's strong.
Hood had 86 snaps and Redmond had 60 snaps. So I thought the secondary did well. But now going forward, if you take Gibson out of the equation, Heath, is there enough depth in that secondary to overcome his loss?
I think it's going to be a challenge, but those guys got to step up and step forward and prepare for, you are preparing for this East Tennessee State, and you cannot allow those receivers to get open. I mean, they will not be as talented, probably. You wouldn't expect them to be as talented as the Georgia receivers will be. So you're going to have to, you need to cover them. You need to show that you can perform at a high level, at the SEC level.
All right, let's move on to our next segment. Our next segment brought to you by General Insurance Services, located off Hardin Valley Road. They offer senior discounts, great prices on car insurance. They offer auto and home building, and you can get a quote in just 2 minutes. You can check them out, General Insurance Services. It's a Shuler family-owned business, and a guy named Navy Shuler's over there.
That is Navy. That's his company, and my father-in-law has been in the business for 50 years, and so he is mentoring him along. And I've been so proud of the way his work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
I think athletics plays such an important role of establishing a work ethic and an attitude, and the way he's done that and getting out in the community. He's walking up door to door doing cold calls and businesses trying to get up. It takes a lot of guts to do that.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get rejected, obviously. Yeah. But it's been amazing how a quick amount of growth they've had in the East Tennessee area. I've been real proud of him.
All right, let's talk about the offensive line. Is that offensive line going to be better this year than it was a year ago when Tennessee led the SEC in rushing yards per game at about 226? So against Syracuse, Tennessee finds out that David Sanders with an injury is not going to play. He's at right tackle. So the right guard, Jesse Perry, moves to right tackle.
Mm-hmm.
The left guard, Wendell Moy, moves from left guard to right guard. And then you ended up starting Umarov at left guard. Sam Pendleton, the Notre Dame transfer, started at center. You had a bunch of different starters up front. The only constant was Lance Hurd at left tackle. How did you think this reshuffled offensive line performed?
Well, exceeded expectations, because when I saw the front, when I saw him walk out on the field, I'm thinking, uh-oh, what are we going to do here? I mean, I was concerned. I went to practice and I talked about how well the defensive front played against that starting offensive line. I was thinking we could be in trouble. I mean, because they were, and it's different. Sometimes it's really, when the offense, the plays. I mean, it's a little easier on the defensive side of the ball. But I mean, I thought they performed extremely well, and the continuity that they have right now has been really good. I'm glad I think we had one, illegal procedure was one penalty of the offensive lineman. I think that's all we had.
That's all I can think of.
I think it was one. And so I was happy with that, because last year, as you well know, we had time after time after time. We had penalty after penalty in that offensive line. The biggest question mark will still be is, how well is the center and the quarterback going to be able to communicate together? And what I was able to see in that, it doesn't look like we missed any of the reads. The audibles it seemed like they were handled very well. Looked like there was great conversation between the center and the quarterback. And that tells me a lot of how well that you're going to set those protections. The quarterback's got to protect himself and get in the right play.
Well, the running backs ran for 212 yards.
Yes.
And 0 sacks. So
that says a lot, doesn't it?
It does say a lot that you're able to run the ball and you're able to pass protect.
The legs of Joey helped on the sack part of it, right? Which is good.
Yep.
But he didn't get pressure. I mean, in the first half, there was very, very little pressure on him, which was a good thing. Gave him confidence. He was able to complete the passes they needed to. So I was real pleased with how they performed.
So one of the things that came out of that is that Tennessee has been cross-training their offensive linemen. I think back to when you played at Tennessee, one of the best in the business at doing that was Philip Fulmer.
Oh, without a doubt.
They cross-train, and in fact,
across the board.
Yes, and you need to be able to play multiple positions. And so what he would do is, rather than if your right tackle went out and you put in the backup right tackle,
He put the
would
next
take the
best person.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Who was capable of playing the right tackle position. So he cross-trained and did it very well. The offensive linemen nowadays, for the most part, from what I've heard, they prefer to stick to one position and learn that and master that. But you've got to be able to do what Tennessee did against Syracuse. I'm a big fan of the cross-training of the offensive line.
Well, it actually works out because you want your best players on the field regardless, right? And if you see them mixing it up, one play makes a big difference. You have a player that goes down with a cramp or a quick injury and they have to come out for one snap. That one snap could be the difference of the game. It could be a sack, fumble, recover, and run in for the end zone because you missed the blitz pickup as an offensive lineman. Sometimes it only takes one. So cross-training those offensive linemen, obviously it makes them more versatile. So when they're ready for the next league, they can be, Cade Mays is a perfect example of that, played left tackle, left guard, and center in the NFL now. So he's been able to play those. So it gives them more versatility. So when they do go to the next level, that they can have that they had played guard, tackle, or center. And
makes them more valuable.
It makes them more valuable in that team. And what we're getting is probably a better quality offensive line as a whole. But what that says, if you're the sixth person, that sixth man on the line, then you need to make sure that you put yourself in a situation where they're calling you instead of shuffling, you get your position that you want best.
Does Tennessee have enough depth on the offensive line to sustain injuries, or do we not know that yet?
I wish I could tell you that I know that, but I think until we start seeing what happens in that, hopefully this is the game that it happens with, that we get an opportunity to get up early, then we get, those 2s and 3s get an opportunity and get some playing time underneath their belt. You'll find out pretty quickly, because those two other backup quarterbacks are really good quarterbacks. And so you hope that it doesn't fall off at that offensive line because they've been able to, participate in spring ball and in the summer, and they're ready to play.
What do you expect from the true freshman who did not play, David Sanders, at right tackle?
I was kind of surprised that he didn't play. I mean, I really, I'm hoping that injury, they don't really tell you what the injuries are anymore.
They don't even put a depth chart.
They don't put a depth chart. So I think that, if he's able to bounce back, I think it gives us we played that 6 man and played exceptionally well. Yeah. So, I mean, you get an opportunity to get a very talented freshman come in, and you're going to put 5 guys. That means you got a 6th guy that's out there that unfortunately injuries happen at the offensive line.
Sure.
And there will be a time that they will have to play their 6th and 7th depth on the depth chart on that offensive line. It will happen this year, and they'll get multiple snaps.
I will be curious whether Tennessee can match last year's 226 yards per game rush.
It's because we didn't throw. It is going to be hard. And I don't think that's a lack of the ability of the running backs or a lack of the ability of the offensive line. I just think that we're going to be more balanced this year. Because how many times on 3rd and 6 did we run the football last year because we didn't have confidence at the quarterback position that we could pick it up throwing the football?
That's a good point. All right. We will see how that offensive line continues to perform well. Okay. Our next segment is it is brought to you by Thrivent. Now, whether your retirement is far off or fast approaching, now's the time to plan with the expert team at TriStar Wealth Advisors with Thrivent. Their team consists of Kevin Canarenshell, his son Derek Canarenshell, Chad Brogdon, and Natalie English. They look forward to helping you with your goals, and with confidence they will provide you. Give them a call at 865-494-2667. All right, this is coming.
Let me guess. This is what you've been talking about all week, right?
Will Star Thomas, the transfer from Duke, lead Tennessee in rushing? I had mentioned that he led his Coffeyville Community College in rushing when he was there. He led New Mexico State in rushing when he was there. He led Duke in rushing. And as a 3rd string back at Tennessee, he led the Vols in rushing with 92 yards. Can he lead Tennessee in rushing this year?
I'm not so concerned about who's going to lead in rushing this year as I am that they all get an opportunity to have fresh legs coming in. Yeah. I saw Bishop for the first time today at practice, and they were just in their T-shirts, and he had sleeves cut off. That is a man. That guy is physically, he looks like an NFL player. He looks like an NFL running back. I don't know when's the last time we've had a running back that physically looks like he does.
Wow.
I was blown away with his. He literally is in incredible shape. I see now why he is so hard to bring down, because he's physically so strong. I'd heard he had hit the weight room, and it certainly proved itself when I saw him today. I couldn't believe that he looks like, some of those linebackers that you see in the NFL. I mean, he literally, I was like, is that Bishop? Because he had his jersey on. I said, and then I looked at his face. I said, that's him. I was really, surprised of how the offseason, how hard he worked in this offseason.
Is it just as surprising that the only offer he had out of high school was Coastal Carolina after he set all these records at Carnes High School?
I don't know what they were looking at. Somebody missed big on this guy. I mean, whoever was doing the rating and the stars and all that, and I have my question on those star ratings anyway, but they certainly missed it on this guy. I mean, he is a very talented, strong. He's a faster Mose Phillips, but he's got a Mose Phillips, I don't know, running style, which was extremely hard to take down. Yes, it's what time it is.
It's Deshaun Bishop time. That's what time
That's
it is.
it.
So Bishop ran for over 3,000 yards in 1 year at Carnes. He set all kind of records. The knock was they didn't think he was fast enough. And he was in that 4.65, 4.7 range. He doesn't look like that now.
No, I think it's because of how much he's done off the offseason. Now, he doesn't have Star Thomas's speed or Lewis's speed. I think both of them are faster than he is. But, to pick up those short yardage, that short yardage, we need that type running back. I mean, Sampson last year was a really good running back, but to get those short yards, that 4th and 1, that's a little bit more challenging for him when you got a running back in the backfield that you could hand it to that he's got to be 225, 230. I mean, he is
Bishop
he looks that big. I mean, I couldn't believe it, and so I mean, you those short yardage games, that's the difference. That's moving the sticks.
Peyton Lewis is a big back.
He is too, yes.
And he also was a high school sprinter.
Yes.
Which is hard to imagine seeing a guy that big. And then you got Star Thomas, who has some wiggle. He looked really good against Syracuse.
He really did.
He's a good receiver out of the backfield. So I could see Bishop leading the team in rushing, but Star Thomas having more rushing and receiving yards.
I think so.
I think it's going to be
pretty Lewis
close.
Is going to have those breakaways. He's going to get out and he's going to get in the secondary and they can't catch him.
Yeah.
I mean, and so with that, I hate to refer back to when I played, but there was a guy named Charlie Garner, Aaron Hayden, and Little Man Stewart.
Yeah.
And all were incredible, but all of them brought a different type of running style to our offense.
What's the different running style with these three?
Well, I think that you got Star Thomas that has that wiggle. I mean, he's going to be able to – he's going to make things happen. You got Lewis, who's going to be that breakaway speed. I mean, and, the Charlie Garner was the wiggle guy. He had some serious speed too. Yeah. But Aaron Hayden, believe it or not, was so fast. And then those short yardage downs and those rough the yardage you need, hand that ball to Little Man Stewart. I mean, Little Man
is that the Deshaun Bishop?
And I think that's Bishop. So I definitely think that Bishop, when you look at statistics, he's going to win those short yardage, and he's going to have the most touchdowns because short yardage on the goal line. How are they going to stop him?
Is the running back room the best room on Tennessee's roster?
As a room, gosh, them and that defense and the defensive line. I mean, both of them are very talented, as a whole.
Yeah.
And I think you got to put your quarterbacks in that mix too. I think you got 3 very talented quarterbacks.
Well, I don't think they're ready to perform at the level.
Not at the level that the running backs are. No, you're right about that. That would be, Once again, Jimmy, you're right.
Down the road, we might look and say, "Hey, look at those." But for right now, those I think all the running backs. I mean, all
they could start most other places.
The thing is about the trio. While I don't know that any one of them is the best in the SEC, I don't know if there's a better running back room in the SEC.
Could be true
than what Tennessee rolls out there.
I am hoping that is the case, and I think we'll see it on. You're going to see the speed on Saturday. I think you're going to see some opportunities for those running backs. There's going to be some big holes, and let's just see if anyone on East Tennessee State can actually catch those guys.
Well, if they do, that Tennessee running back's going to catch. You know what?
You don't want to be in that film room next day.
So. So I'm really high on the running backs, and I think that's one reason Tennessee has an opportunity to average over 200 yards rushing per game. And
when's the last time that you have seen 3 running backs that you feel that are, I know we're early on. I mean, a couple of years ago we had 3 running backs. It was pretty good.
Jalen Wright, Jabari Small, and Dylan Sampson.
That was a really strong group.
Yeah, and then before that, when I think about it,
it'd been a while to have 3.
You had to have 3. You got to go back to in 1998 you had Jamal Lewis, Travis Henry, Travis Stevens.
That was pretty strong.
And one of them got hurt, Jamal Lewis. But when you had that threesome, that's pretty good.
That is a really good group. Yeah.
And 2 of them had tremendous NFL careers. Out of that group. Okay, so the running backs very high on what they did and what they promised to do this season. All right, our next segment is brought to you by Marcos Garza Law Firm, attorneys that care about their clients. Now, you want a local, you want a proven, you want a quality attorney that is in your corner. Let Marcos Garza help you. Learn more at garzalaw.com. All right, as far as our next segment, we are going to talk about when Tennessee, this thing that just really bugs me, the fake injuries. This game with Tennessee and Syracuse had plenty of that, had more than it needed to. The game lasted over 4 hours, it seemed like, because you had players going down on both sides. Tennessee, you can count on it like clockwork. If they score quickly or they have a defensive touchdown, there's going to be an injury when they kick an extra point. And with Syracuse, gosh, at one point, 2 guys went down and another guy saw, I got to get back up because my other teammate went down. And one of the things that I don't like about what's these, like the green helmets where they communicate, well, they can go tell the linebacker, tell 34 to flop. And so now the new rule is if the ball's set in play and you go down, that's a timeout against your team. If you don't have any timeouts, it's delay of the game. Well, what now they're doing is they're falling down before the ball is set in play. So they've circumvented the rule.
Yeah.
Greg Sankey sent out a memo to all the coaches in the SEC to stop this nonsense, stop these fake injuries. And we saw no evidence of that happening, at least in the Tennessee-Syracuse game. I got a couple of suggestions about that, but I wonder, and my wife pointed this out to me. She said, it's aggravating when you're just sitting at home watching it. But if you're in the stands,
it's even worse.
There's break after break, and you're sitting there.
Saturday, I sat there, and it was like, we have another one. I mean, you watched Ohio State. They started after us. All right, their game started out, and they finished 30 minutes before we did. I'm not a fan of that. I know that we need to go fast, but if, you either choose one or the other, right? Either go fast or don't go fast. And if you go fast, there's some consequence. That means you got to get some really good, you got to have a lot of depth. You got to have your defense in shape. But, I watched the other team do it to us. I mean, 2 guys fell at one time.
And then one of them hopped up.
And then one hopped up. He got the wrong signal, I guess. Yeah. But I mean, how do you think the best way to address this? I mean, if you were to look at it, what's your opinion on, how to address it that you don't see it? But then when there really are real injuries, that it doesn't hinder a team from or a player getting back up because they know that it's going to cause a team and it may cause more extensive issues with that.
You have to put teeth in the rule. Okay, so here's what I would do. And this applies to Tennessee. We know when Tennessee is going to have a lineman go down on an extra point. It's like clockwork. Everybody knows that's going on if you follow Tennessee. So it won't be for that game because you have to go back and look at the tape. I understand that. That player is suspended for the next game, and the head coach is suspended for the next game.
Ouch.
And that'll stop this nonsense. Now, but
how do you know if it's not somebody?
On an extra point, okay, for Tennessee. That. Nobody gets hurt on an extra point. In 140 years of football at Tennessee, it never happened, but it's happened the last 5 years. So I'm not buying that. But here's how, when you saw the Syracuse situations, you pointed out, 2 of them go down, one of them bounces back up. Okay, that guy is suspended because that's what they were doing. Yeah. And so is the coach for the next game. So they will quit. Now, you can't catch them all. I understand that. There are injuries that are real, like Ricky Gibson when he went down. I think when Nate Robinson went down, I think he was actually hurt. But when you see it, it is so obvious, and you can see it on tape that is what happened, and that somebody from the sideline called for that, then the next game the player sits and the coach sits. and then you won't have any of this nonsense.
Yeah, I watched one of the Syracuse players. We were sitting on the Syracuse side in the stadium, and he hobbled off. A great acting job. I mean, these guys they're taking some drama class in college for sure at Syracuse. He hobbled off. He made a circle, got in the mix of the players, and got right back up and ran on the field the very next play. I was like, that's not what is making that's. And it was a 3 minutes, 30-second timeout.
So you see that, and it's on film. It's on tape. They know that occurred.
Yeah.
So that player is out for the next game, and so is head coach. So
that'll make it tough on folks.
Yeah, well, and they'll stop this silliness.
So do you think it'll happen this year? Or you think in the middle of the season or
no?
So we're going to have these 4.5 hour games?
Yes, they'll continue. And part of it will be if you score a lot of points. That'll be one factor.
Yeah.
The Texas-Ohio State game, they had 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But they also didn't have fake injuries. So that's why they completed that game in less than 3.5 hours.
Because there was no offense.
No offense and no fake injuries.
Yeah.
So, but I just think they need to do something. I think it's absurd that they've allowed it to go on like this. And I'll say this too, and I want to call out Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner. I know he sent out a memo to these coaches about, hey, we need to stop this. Well, how many times have you reprimanded a player or a coach when you know there was a fake injury? When you have seen on tape there was a fake injury, that a coach is on the sideline signaling, go down, a player does. What have you done about it? What have you done about it, Greg Sankey? If you want to get rid of it, you've got to step up. And maybe it's just a conference rule. I don't care what they do in the ACC or other conferences. In the SEC, if you do that, call them out. Now, I think they should have rules in other conferences. But if you see it, don't allow it. So just sending out a memo is not going to accomplish it. You've got to put some teeth into this. And I think he's got to step forward and say, hey, this is what we're going to do to stop this. And I guarantee you, when you start suspending coaches and the player, then you're going to see, well, you're not going to see anymore.
Yeah.
Because the coach don't want to, he's got to be suspended without pay too. He didn't get his money.
Jimmy is hard on everybody today.
I'm tired of
those NFL 3-hour games, right?
That's right. In fact, I was talking to somebody about that. You don't see fake injuries in the NFL, do you?
No, but you don't see offensive go as fast as
That's true. That's true.
I mean, there's consequences of the offense being so fast, right?
Right.
So when you do score, and it makes it really challenging to have your defense on there. I mean, I'm sure that Coach Banks is the one that's probably signaling that offensive lineman to go down on special after a field goal or a PAT.
Well, they have a designated player to go down, and sometimes they'll mix it up. It might be the right guard, and then the next game is the left guard. So they just so they don't get caught. Anyway, I'm fed up with that. I hope they'll do something to change that. All right, let's get to our next segment. And our next segment is brought to you by Home Federal. It's a place where I do my banking. At Home Federal, it was founded in Knoxville over 100 years ago. They serve the community with over 23 branches in Knox County, Anderson County, Blount County, and Sevier County. Home Federal is beholden to its local clients. Home Federal, serving customers' diverse financial needs. All right, Tennessee wide receivers. A year ago, there was an issue with drops. Now, Georgia led the nation in drops with 36. I don't know how close Tennessee was to that, but it seemed like they were pretty close.
I would have thought we'd have been ahead of that last year.
Yeah, I would have too, just thinking back.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a judgmental or subjective decision, because sometimes it can be a very difficult catch that you try
Even
to make.
though they got two hands on it,
Yeah, if you get two hands, I think you probably ought to catch it. But anyway, Tennessee dropped, I'd say 4 or 5 passes. So, and
it was early on too. Maybe it's those jitters. I think
so
that happens.
Up.
Yeah, so hyped up. Sometimes we had a couple of them that was either trying to figure out what they were going to do with the ball once they catch it and kind of looking over their shoulders. I don't think it was a situation where they were intimidated by going across the middle. I just think they were trying to see where the defender was, how they was going, what kind of moves they were going to try to make. So. It's hard, and it was early on. It got better as the day went on. So tomorrow will be a really good, to see if there was some adjustments made.
Well, with Aguilar, he was not pinpoint with his accuracy early either.
No, he wasn't.
And
He threw a
there
couple balls that were high and behind.
Yeah, and there were a couple of them where it hit him in the hands. It might have been behind him, and I thought, well, that's
on that
catchable.
hitch route though. That was on the receiver. His responsibility is to come back down the stem, as they call it, and he makes the move and he comes back, and that way you really keep the ball away from the defender, because you don't know, as a quarterback, you're throwing to that spot. And he's got to make sure he gets back to that spot.
And Brazel dropped a perfect slant pass.
He did, yes.
I don't know how many yards he was going to gain, but he was going to get
a lot of yards.
So that was so there were some drops. So the receivers have to get better. So I do wonder, in terms of the wideouts, Heath, do you try to run easier routes? Do you try to simplify things? What are some answers to the receivers doing a better job catching the football?
You would hope that it was just the first game jitters, right? That it's first time that they, Matthews, I think he should have been a further along. I think he had 2 of those drops early on in the game. But you would hope that they would get to the point where they are, that the game speed is catching up with them. They understand that they're doing, but that's an off season. You can't correct that in the middle of the season. I think it's really challenging to say that now I'm gonna learn how to catch a football, and I don't think you can't change those routes or simplify it. They have to be able to either catch the ball, if not next up. I mean, it's that simple. Because you can get open, and a lot of times the routes, depending on, you can have a guy that's a step behind you and route running, but if you're catching the ball and you get an opportunity to catch the ball, it doesn't matter how many yards you catch after it catches. As long as you catch it, at least it's further than the guy that dropped it behind you.
So you mentioned about if you drop it, next man up. Tennessee does not have a lot of receivers
depth
on scholarship.
Yeah.
They don't have much depth.
Yeah.
So if they have to go next man up, you're looking at probably a freshman named Rodarius Jackson or a freshman named Smith. Tennessee's first-year receivers have not done well under Heupel, except year one. Bayless Jones had a lot of catches. Cedric Tillman had a lot of catches in year one, 2021.
Yes, that's right.
And other than that, we haven't seen a first-year receiver jump out and catch a lot of balls.
It's hard because the routes convert, based upon the coverages, they convert. And if they don't have a real understanding out of the high school level, and you watch football across this country, there's sometimes just when they have that type of athleticism, they're not having to learn a whole lot, right? They're athletically just so much better than their opponents are. And so therefore they're not learning coverages. They may see single high, too high, but all in all, they're not having to adjust on that high school level. So that in itself takes a lot of time to teach those receivers how to convert those routes, because they have to be on the same page that the quarterback is.
So if you end up having to go with a couple of freshmen, whether it's injuries or drop passes by the veteran receivers, do you change the route tree? Do you change things to make it easier on them?
I think you have to put them in, because that's part of the game. They've got to understand it. They've got to play catch up now. Unfortunately, that is the game, and you recruit them to come play, and I'm sure every freshman on that team out there would say, "Hey, put me in the game, coach." They just got to be able to be prepared, and they've had spring. In most cases, they've all had spring ball. They had the summer, and they should be getting very close to to be able to make all those route conversions.
I went into the season feeling there were 2 position group rooms that concerned me the most: wide receiver and offensive line. Yeah. I'm not as worried about the offensive line now as I was.
I hope you're right about that.
I'm still worried about the receivers.
Yeah. Yeah, the receiver is still the room that you kind of question, right? That's the one. Even though we had a lot of yards, caught the ball, and we did catch the ball, it went well, but we had a few drops. But it's just, we don't have, Matthews is, you got a couple of guys that can break, but you don't have that blazing speed that you think, oh my goodness, throw a hitch out to him. He's making one move and he's taking it to the house. I don't think we have that yet.
Well, that's going to lead to our next segment. That's a really good lead into this. Our next segment is brought to you by Ray Varner Ford in Clinton. You can check out the great selection of the Ford F-150s, the Ford Escape, the Ford Bronco. You'll find low prices and a big selection on new and pre-owned vehicles. Loyal, local, and ready to serve. That's Ray Varner Ford in Clinton. All right, Boo Carter. He did not start. He played 27 snaps, all on defense, no punt returns, no snaps on offense. So How do you handle Boo Carter going forward? Do you start him, or do you look at Jalen McMurray at the nickel position and say he played well, or does McMurray end up moving a cornerback for Ricky Gibson, perhaps?
Could.
And then Boo Carter starts. What do you think?
Yeah, that's probably what I would do. I think Boo Carter's got to start. He's one of the most athletic guys on the entire team. I think the offseason was a little bit challenge for him. We know about the, kind of those personal issues that we've talked about. That this should have been the year that he spent as much time on the offensive side as he did the defensive side. And because he is that talented player that can catch a hitch and take it the distance. He's got the speed, he's got the athleticism, catches the ball extremely well. You would hope that at some point in time that would be a part of the wrinkle, reverses, those type things, that he could come in on the offensive side and make a difference. The question is, has he spent enough time to understand what's his, to be able to get him on that side? I mean, you look at, the Heisman Trophy winner, Hunter, last year. I mean, there's a perfect example of, he was really talented on both sides of the ball, but he spent a tremendous amount of time. He was a student of the game, spent so much time offensively and defensively to be not be good at those positions, but be great at each of those positions.
With Boo Carter, if he plays receiver, do you basically say, all right, we're throwing him a flanker screen, or it's a go route? Do you simplify it to
or reverse? Yeah, I think you do
reverse. Okay.
Yeah. I think you have here's the routes, or put him in situations regardless of the coverage, the route stays consistent, right? You put him in those, those type areas, and that's going to be more on the outside edges instead of in the slot, which makes it a little bit more challenging. If he's, I would prefer to play him on the slot, right? Play him on the slot where he can, get the reverses out of the back, loop around the back. If nothing else, if he doesn't get the reverse, he's drawing attention to the other side of the field. He's drawing attention. They're having to cover it. So it adds an added dimension to the offense that I think we need.
So getting back to the secondary, I thought the cornerbacks performed well. I thought the star position with Murray performed well. The safeties I thought were just kind of okay. Murray can play safety.
Yes.
Maybe you move him to safety, Boo Carter to the nickel position or the star position, and Redmond and Hood are your starting corners. What do you think of that lineup?
I think that you're going to see a little bit of mix of that. I think I don't know exactly what it'll ultimately end up as the year goes on because of injuries, right? And it won't be the last injury, in the secondary. I mean, unfortunately, that's a really tough position. Injuries happen at that particular positions, the safeties and the corners. I think what you're going to see is a combination that very similar to what we talked about at the offensive line. They have to be interchangeable. You have to have to allow these guys to be able to play both, corners and safeties and nickels and corners. And I mean, you got to be able to try as best mix. And then obviously is out of that group, who's going to be the captain, right? Who's going to be that guy in the secondary that's going to make sure that everyone is in the right position, because you have your Mike backer that help with that front seven, but who's going to be that real leader in the secondary that's going to make sure people are lined up correctly, and most importantly, when they see a particular alignment offensively, do they change the coverage, and are they the ones that are that has studied the film, studied the game plan well enough that they make those changes during the process of the game, because that is the difference between just an average player and an exceptional player when they can identify those changes that need to be made.
So while we're on defense, I want to bring this up. The defense played 84 snaps. The offense, it's only 1 week, but had the 6th fastest pace of any team in the country as far as snaps.
Yeah.
They didn't have a whole lot of snaps, but as far as snapping the ball, there wasn't a whole lot of clock that ran. So the defense ends up with 84 snaps. I'm not sure they can sustain that. That's not what you want. A year ago,
you don't want 84 snaps against Georgia.
Right. Yeah. Now, part of that was maybe Tennessee in a hurry up. Another part was you couldn't get out the field. That's your fault.
Yeah, that's right.
If it's 4th down and you can't get out the field, then you need to improve on that. And there were 4 third down conversions that Syracuse made. And on each of those 3 4th down conversions, they scored a touchdown on each of those. So you've got to do a better job of making a stop, getting off the field. So it's not all the tempo.
No.
You have a responsibility as well to stop somebody on 4th down or 3rd down for that matter.
Yeah, and I think that is where you're going to see where we are defensively. I don't think that East Tennessee State's going to have the offense that's going to put that pressure on you this week. But come Next Saturday, we're going to find out, how we are. I mean, how good our front seven really is.
So, and these were numbers from Adam Sparks at the Knoxville News Sentinel. The defensive snaps per game last year, 67, which ranked 89th, which is a good number. The lower, the better. 67 snaps a game for the opposing offense. The year before, it was 69.7. That's still a really good number, 56 in the country. The year before that, the defense was on the field for 78.4 snaps, which was the sixth worst in the country. And in 2021, 81.4 snaps a game, which was third worst in the country. So I like anything below 70.
Yeah, and so that means we're improving.
Yes, on those two areas the last 2 years. That's right.
We are improving.
Yeah, so they got to get back to that going forward. So
Yes.
as you said, you don't want 84 snaps by Georgia.
No,
So
you don't want Georgia to have 84 snaps.
You got to do a better job in that regard. Okay, all right. Our next segment is brought to you by A.G. Hyams and Company. Now, whether it's building materials that you need or whether commercial or residential, they have got you covered at A.G. Hyams and Company. If you're starting a project, you know who to call. A.G. Hyams. They've been in business for over 100 years, selling building materials since anyone can remember. All right, our next segment, Tennessee is playing ETSU. ETSU is an opponent that Tennessee beat 59-3 a few years ago. They have basically, other than the Austin Peay game a few years ago, they basically routed opponents at this level. Do you like Tennessee playing this game? Is there any good that comes out of it? Is it building depth? Is it maybe kind of resting your starters so that they're not pushed, given a long season? What are your thoughts?
I think the best thing about playing this is we keep the money in state. The money that goes to East Tennessee State. I mean, instead of picking a school outside the state, we keep the money at home, right? So I think that's probably the best thing. I think the thing that always worries you about that, are you going to get up? I mean, you got the next game is the Georgia game. We've even discussed the Georgia, talks about it, look ahead. We can do that, right? We used to not be able to do that, but now we can do that. But you don't want your team to do that. They really need to focus on the task at hand. You never want to see a letdown. I mean, that Austin Peay game was absolutely embarrassing.
Yep.
And you don't want to see that. And then then you show doubt in yourself. You show doubt in those around you. And I believe that we go out and we go strong. There's just something about this team that I've seen better leadership than I have seen in the last 3 years.
So is it an opportunity to build depth on the offensive line or defensive line or in the secondary, or
it's
get some snaps or something?
Yeah, everybody gets some snaps. I mean, you're going to see those backup quarterbacks get snaps. You got those three running backs. They're going to get their share of snaps, right? And they're going to get them with the ones and with the twos probably. And then you're going to get some offensive linemen. You got to create some depth across the board. You're going to see some walk-ons at that wide receiver position get an opportunity to go in the game, and we're going to see if they have what it takes to be able to to compete at a high level. They got to be consistent. They got to understand in all walks, regardless of where you are in the depth chart. When you get in there, you are expected to perform at a high level, and you're expected to know what you're supposed to do. And I think if you do that, then I think that the game will go as we anticipate it. And it'll really come down to the leadership amongst the team themselves. Coaches always do a great job of focus. Sometimes in these lesser,
X, right?
Yeah, they always are, they do a great job. So don't worry about what coaches do. It's, what happens in the locker room. How are you talking about in the locker room? Are you focused? Are you ready to play on Saturday? Sometimes that's when your big injuries happen, right? I mean, that's the worry that you have when you play a team, that's not your same caliber, is what's going to happen. Are you going to come away as, with an injury? And you hope that neither team ever comes away with an injury, but it is possible.
So the most important position on the field, not just because you played it, quarterback, Joey Aguilar. So he doesn't have a lot of snaps in this system. Does he stay in the game a little bit longer just to get more reps? I think he does.
I think he really does, unless it just gets way out of hand. And you don't want those snaps aren't as important if you're just handing the ball off, right? If it gets to that point, put the 2 in, right? And so Jake comes in the ball game at that point in time. Then it's okay for the number 2 guy to throw the ball. It's not okay when you get up and your starter's still in the game throwing the ball. So once that transition happens, when you get to the point where the starter no longer needs to throw the ball, it's time to put the number 2 guy in.
Is there a benefit to having that chance to rest some of your starters, because it's a long season? So,
it is. It's back to the injury part of it. I mean,
Yeah.
you do, but the question is, do we know if are we in shape enough, right?
Mhm.
And you can do all the off-season running. There is something about a game that's the only way to prepare yourself is to be in the game and go fast in order to prepare, that you get in game shape. You can pretend, and, David Cutcliffe used to say this all the time, tempo, tempo, tempo. The reason he wanted us to have tempo, he wanted to try to create as much game-like tempo as he possibly could, to not necessarily, yes, from a mental perspective, but more importantly, from that physical perspective, to get the offensive line to go, get the running backs go, get those receivers. They just ran a go route. We got to get them back to the line of scrimmage, because next play we're going to throw them a slant. It's that type of, and it's hard to create. The good thing is, offensively, we do that at practice a lot. So I'm not so worried about our offenses. The question is, being able to, on defensively, are we going to be capable of setting some guys, even though, and we have depth up front, but, our backers, we don't have a lot of depth at the backer position. So I'd like to, when will we pull our starting 3 linebackers?
ETSU has a number of players that would like to be in a Tennessee uniform.
Yeah, and one in particular, that played last year, Charlie, tied in, Christ School guy, so it'll be a little unusual to see him on the other side. He's from that from the Tri-Cities area, and so I'm just you want to see kids do well, especially so many of those kids that are in the state, and they're getting ready to play against the University of Tennessee.
In Neyland Stadium.
Neyland, you're right. They wanted to play that. I would say most every one of them wanted to play. If they from Tennessee, they would like to play in the Orange. So it's a big day for them.
A couple of numbers about Heupel that I want to share, and John Pennington of the Sports Source does a good job with this. When Tennessee scores 30 points, Josh Heupel's 34-2.
Woo.
When Tennessee rushes for at least 177 yards, they're 32-2. When they allow fewer than 27 points or fewer, they're 33-3. Those are pretty good benchmarks for Tennessee.
Yeah.
And then if they have 8 penalties or less, they're 25-6. They hit those 4 benchmarks. They hit against Syracuse. The ones they didn't hit, but they're still good. When they've rushed for 3 touchdowns, they're 22-0. When they have allowed 99 rushing yards or less, they're 21-2. And when they complete 65% of their passes, 21-4. And when they allow less than 350 yards of total offense, 24-1.
Ooh.
So those are pretty good numbers under Heupel. Those are things to watch for, not necessarily against ETSU,
right?
But against other opponents. So is there any number that surprises you, that sticks out to you out of that group?
I think the one of the completion percentage. I know that's only it's 21-4, but completion percentage in this particular offense, because so many hitches are out there.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's not higher number, that it would need to be, 67, 68. I know that's getting into the, T. Martin had a really good game once, if I'm not mistaken, to set the NCAA record
against South Carolina.
Against South Carolina, 23
in a row.
Yeah. So, that's one in particular. I think that's one of them. The one I really like is, 99, less than 99 yards rushing. That's pretty strong.
Were you concerned about the run defense? You had a running back at Syracuse that ran for 3 touchdowns and 100 yards.
I was really surprised that we didn't stop the run better.
Yeah.
I really was. And I don't know, I'm sure that's something Coach Banks is looking at this week and how to address that. But yeah, he ran well.
Yeah.
And we may see at the end of the year he's an exceptional running back. But
he looked pretty good.
He did. We made him look really good, or he is that. And I would assume that he's a pretty good running back.
Yeah, I watched him, and I'm in this fantasy league in college, and I thought, I'm gonna go draft that guy in the supplemental draft.
Sure.
Somebody already took him. Why did they know this guy?
Too, right?
I guess so I got boxed out of that one. That is Inside the Huddle with Heath and Hyams. We certainly appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and we will have the ability to go on my website. We're going to put it there so that you can watch the replay if you didn't have a chance to watch it live. We've also got it on Off the Hook Sports YouTube as well. It'll be on my Facebook account also. And we want to thank the folks here at Matlock Tire for having us here. Heath, you just mentioned yesterday you were here getting some tires.
Yes.
I've come here for tires. I've come here for oil changes. I've come here to have my tires fixed whenever I've run over a nail. So it's really a good place. Matlock Tires, they've been in business for over 70 years, a full-service tire center that offers top-quality tire brands, expert service, and installation. 5 convenient locations, and we have been at the Farragut locations. We certainly thank you for tuning in. This has been Inside the Huddle with Heath and Hyams.